but I'm really looking forward to this session today. And I want to take this opportunity to welcome all of you. This is the session on preparing for the future, school meals, and sustainable food systems. And it builds very nicely on the discussions that we've been having. The way we grow, process, and transform and consume food isn't really working anymore, either for people or for our planet. Too many children are going hungry or eating poorly, while the food we do produce is harming the environment at times. Climate change, soil degradation, and biodiversity loss are making it harder to grow sufficient, nutritious food for all, especially in communities that already face vulnerabilities. But there is hope, and it starts with something as simple and powerful as school meals, and that's why really we are all here today. Now, school meals are about feeding children, but they're even about more than that. They're a strategic tool to transform food systems, support local farmers, promote climate resilience, and improve nutrition at scale. When designed well, school meals can reduce environmental impact, strengthen local economies, and help children thrive. That's why this session matters, and it's why it matters now. Today, we'll hear from governments that are leading the way, and we've heard that it is governments that are leading the way. We'll also hear from partners who are aligning behind these efforts, helping scale and sustain national programs through strategic investment and collaboration. So, let's dive in, starting with the evidence. Now, I am joined by Professor Don Bundy, the director of the Research Consortium for School Health and Nutrition, based at the London School of Hygiene and Tropical Medicine. Don, if you wouldn't mind coming up and joining me. And we're just going to take a little path over here. Hear me? There we go. Okay. Can you test your microphone, Don?
Oh, can you hear me now?
I hear you loud and clear, but can they hear you?
Can you all hear me?
Yes,
yeah, thank you.
Good. So, Professor Bundy, you know, I was thinking when I last saw you, and I was thinking of the last School Meal Summit, but then I actually remembered, and I think the last time I saw you, we were in a bunker in Ukraine, having been attending the regional school meals meeting there, yeah?
That's absolutely right.
Well, it was amazing that meeting still convened so many partners from around the world. It was great to have you there. I think it was a long travel to get there, and we emerged safely from that bunker. But I want to take you a little bit further back, and that's when we sat down 2 years ago. And at the time, the Research Consortium was working on what became the Planet-Friendly School Meals White Paper. So can you take us back and really explain what is this conceptual framework all about? What do we mean by planet-friendly school meals, and why is this concept all the more important now?
Okay, thank you, Valerie. And I heard yesterday that 1.7 million children are now being fed in Ukraine as a result of that meeting we were at. But you're right, back in Paris 2 years ago, we talked about the development of a white paper that would look at the issue of planet-friendly school meals. That turned out to be a huge journey. It was a huge collaborative effort, and eventually we ended up with 160 authors from 87 different organizations worldwide supporting that paper. And we took it from Paris to COP28 in Dubai and found ourselves, and I say ourselves because this was with Carmen, on the main stage talking about the role of school meals in climate change, in mitigating climate change. Subsequently, that paper's gone on to be part of a collection that we've now curated in Lancet Planetary Health. So if anyone wants any technical detail, there's several papers have been published there. But I think the big message I would take from that is that COP28 means 28 years. So for 28 years, there'd been this meeting about climate that focused on oil and gas and fossil fuels and their impact on climate. That was the first time that food had been full-on central in the agenda. And school meals were central in the food agenda. And that's really, I think, one of the interesting things that I'd like to talk more about.
Thank you for setting the stage. So let's dig in a little bit more. Based on the research and evidence, what are you seeing as some of the more promising ways that countries can take, that we can take to make school meals more planet friendly? Maybe thinking both in terms of the short term, but also the longer term.
So school meals are public policy programs. These are not external aid programs, they're public policy programs. That means that food purchased, procured by governments, dealt with by governments, is under policy control by governments. And 70% of the food that governments procure is for school meals. You know, the rest is for prisons and hospitals and so forth. School meals vastly dominate the government involvement in in food. And this means that the governments actually hold all the levers, the policy levers, to achieve change in this area. And we identified 4 areas where governments could have immediate short-term impacts. The first being to shift menus towards more diverse, local, and nutrient-dense foods. Particularly thinking around indigenous foods. The example I often like to quote is Nepal, which used to have 3 crops supplying its whole school meals program, 3 different crops, nearly all the food being imported. Now it has 18 crops, nearly all locally grown. And these are the kinds of changes you can think of on the menu side. And then the second and very important issue is clean and efficient cooking of food. It's still the case that across particularly much of Africa, but much of the world, 3-stone wood fires are how people prepare food. Cutting the wood for the fires alone is a major ecological problem. And then thirdly, the waste issue in food. Food is reckoned to be 1/3 of all greenhouse gas emissions. But 1/3 of those emissions are due to waste food. It's the food we throw away that is causing a major problem. Throwing away food also is, of course, such a waste of money. I mean, it's a real cost issue. So that's the third issue that we focused on there. And there are clear ways to reduce the amounts of waste in terms of how you plan and how children understand the food. And the fourth element is embedding holistic food education in the education curriculum. Let's not forget, these children are in school. That's the whole point. Changing a young person's relationship with food at school will change their relationship with food for life. And we can create a whole new generation in countries, or governments can create a whole new generation who have a different relationship with food, who choose sustainable foods preferentially. We can't change adult behavior easily, but with children, that's a way we can move forward. And then in terms of long-term benefits, the issues are all around procurement. It's about what is it what are the procurement rules? Do they include climate? Do they include environmental and socio-economic factors? They should, because that will determine what food is ordered. The 70% of food ordered by governments will fit with that image, and it can help transform food systems. And we can see that that's already a really doable thing. We can also see that it's not only what the food is, but who produces it that you can change. So here in Brazil, we all know this 30% figure of family farm produced food. But we've also got examples from Sierra Leone and Ghana, where there's a deliberate focus on crops that are traditionally grown by women. So winged beans, orange-fleshed sweet potato. So by choosing those crops, you support a particular group within, and you support women farmers. So that's a more long-term response, but you can see that there are 4 rapid responses, and one we'll see play out over the future.
Well, I mean, it's truly extraordinary. With that space, that 70% space that governments occupy, there's a huge opportunity to be driving transformation. And you highlighted some very particular ways that can happen. Now, I know the consortium has been working with countries to turn these good ideas, these best practices, into reality. Can you tell us a little bit more about what's going on to support governments to implement these ideas?
Yeah, so, I'd like to shout out the role of the Rockefeller Foundation in supporting the white paper, the initial white paper, and also I'd like to shout out the role of Novo Nordisk Foundation in now supporting our work with countries to develop a toolkit that helps governments to make wise decisions in how they change, for example, how they change diet and how they deal with waste. To have an idea of how much it costs to choose a particular crop, to make a crop change, how much does it cost, and what's the scale of benefit? Is it worth doing? And so also on the clean cooking side, how do we, what's the most cost-efficient option? And so what we've been working on is producing a toolkit that governments can use themselves to make those assessments and to use those on which to base their choices. And we've been developing this toolkit as part of our global academy of work, and I think you're all familiar that we now have more than 1,200 professors and practitioners in the Research Consortium's Global Academy across 124 countries. But in this case, we're particularly focusing on Kenya, on Rwanda, Uganda, and Ethiopia as piloting countries for this analysis. And we hope to be able to roll the toolkit out later this year.
Well, I mean, that's really fascinating. And the toolkit really points us to the effects that school meals are having on education, on nutrition, on climate, and on economies. Well done, and congratulations. And I love that there's this brain trust that's really involved in powering this work. Can you share what's next on the research agenda, Professor Bundy?
Sure. So we've got two new areas that we're really very, very excited about. The first is that we're beginning to look at the impact of school food procurement on the way in which food is produced, on whether we can address the issues of soil health and regenerative agriculture. So if we talk to an agricultural community, it's an interesting division I find across academic groups. In the agricultural research world, there's a real interest in the issue of soil degradation. We've been producing food for centuries now. For centuries, people have been using rotating crops and so forth, and techniques like that. But in recent years, we've seen a rapid increase in the degradation of soils through the farming methods that are currently employed, and we need to get back to something that actually puts the goodness back into the earth. And so how do you do that, and how do you promote that? And we're looking now at the use of school meal procurement as a way of pushing that agenda. In the same way that it can push the agenda for who produces food, it can also push the agenda for how food is produced. And so one of the things we've done is we've got a new community of practice on food systems transformation that is focusing specifically on that. And also we're connecting with the agrobiology coalition to bring farmers more directly into that discussion. And the second new and again very exciting area, very important area, another mainstream area, is about long-term health. Worldwide, the leading cause of death is cardiometabolic disease. It's not cancer. Diseases like heart disease and diabetes. And managing those diseases is the biggest cost on health systems in all countries. And so trying to look at ways of preventing these diseases is key. And it's abundantly clear that diet is a key factor, that how we eat, how we metabolize, often determines how we develop disease in middle age. And so looking at the early manifestations of this, it looks like, again, if we were to change young people's relationship with food and change our own relationship with food lifelong, that could have very big impacts, very big and important impacts on health and, frankly, on the economics of healthcare. So these are really important areas that we're now working on. And indeed, for that last area, we're about to launch a new white paper, the same principle, many authors, many organizations, and we hope to have the preliminary findings from that by June 2026. So, I've loved being in this meeting. I loved the first day yesterday hearing from the latest state of school feeding results, how school meals have continued to grow in importance and in coverage as government public policy. And we can also see that those school meals programs may have a much bigger role in human health and planetary health than we ever imagined.
Wow, Professor Bundy, what a powerful framework and powerful evidence and exciting work ahead that you're doing. And thank you to you and the entire Research Consortium for really help bringing these big brains behind this powerful, powerful tool. Thank you. Round of applause for Professor Bundy.
Thank you, Valerie. It's always a pleasure.
I'd like to invite you to take your seat. And meanwhile, George, help me bring the next panel up on stage. Thank you.
Thank you, Valerie, and I will do just that. And permit me, ladies and gentlemen, invite to the stage here to join Valerie for the next panel-style conversation, Her Excellency Irere Claudette, Minister of State for Education of Rwanda. Please, a round of applause, encouraging round of applause, so she joins us. His Excellency Professor Ntoi Rapapa, Minister of Education and Training of the Kingdom of Lesotho. His Excellency Dr. John Chrysostom Muyingo, Minister of State for Higher Education of Uganda. His Excellency Queeba Djaite, Minister of Education of Guinea-Bissau. His Excellency Dr. Chan Sophea, Under-Secretary of State, Ministry of Education of Cambodia. Round of applause, welcome them. Mr. Stephen Barongo, Senior Director, Ministry of Education, Kenya. And His Excellency Leulseged Tadese Abebe, Ambassador Extraordinary and Plenipotentiary to Brazil for Ethiopia. You're welcome. And Valerie, that's your panel.
Wow, what a great panel. I'm really looking forward to this conversation. And I really want to thank all of you for joining me. We've been hearing how planet-friendly school meals can be a powerful tool to improve children's health and drive food systems transformation. The evidence is compelling, and some countries are really leading the way, and we have an example of that right here on stage. You, Excellencies, are part of that leadership. We're excited to hear from you, how your countries are putting these frameworks in place, what's working, and what lessons you have learned. So I'm going to begin with Her Excellency Irere Claudette, Minister of State for Education in Rwanda. You know, we saw in the slides yesterday that really Rwanda has been making remarkable progress, and we're all very impressed with this. You've been scaling up national school feeding and increasing the domestic budget allocations to that. You've expanded the coverage up to 4.47 million learners just in the last 3 years. Congratulations, I think that deserves a round of applause. I wanted to ask you how. How is the government building on this momentum to strengthen food systems? How have you done this? And really, how are you including local supply chains and agricultural linkages as part and parcel of this effort? Over to you.
Thank you, Valerie, for that. For the kind statement on Rwanda. The how. Just a few years ago, before COVID, Rwanda had started feeding the children, but we were only feeding about 900, or close to 900,000 children. And that was far from the number of children that needed this. Now, during the pandemic, when the world came to a standstill, we had this idea, why don't we use this time to tackle the many challenges that we knew we were going to face if the world opened up. And so we did two things. One, expanding schools and classrooms to reduce the long distance and overcrowding for students. And then two, we made a historic decision of now feeding every child, so making school feeding universal. Thank you. So today, every child that goes to school knows for sure that they are going to at least have one meal at school. And so these efforts have transformed both access to education, but also to child nutrition. Like you said, today, more than 4.4 million children across primary, pre-primary, primary, and secondary schools, they now benefit from the school meals. This is a 5-fold increase in the last 3 years. And this rapid scale-up is rooted in a simple belief. This is the how. That no child should have to go to school and learn on an empty stomach. And achieving this vision required commitment, national investment, not just waiting for, yes, support, which is good, which is helpful, but rooting and anchoring this vision into the national investment. So today, the budget for school feeding went from 6.2 million in 2020, so that is before COVID, to now $100 million for school feeding across the board. This is 132 billion Rwandan francs, And this accounts for about 18.1% of the education budget, not the national budget, just the education budget. And this is possible. Now, feeding children is only part of the story. We're also using school feeding to strengthen local food systems, like we've heard even from the research. And so we prioritize locally produced food. Everything that we give to children is locally produced. And then this helps create stable markets, helping farmers, but also it injects back into the local communities. With the Rockefeller Foundation, we also piloted the fortified whole grain food. And we tried it in a few schools, and we're looking at scaling this because we know that the nutritional quality of the food is equally important for children. A critical part of our approach is also raising awareness and involving everyone in the school feeding program that we're all a part of. And so we created something, a campaign that we called Dusangire Lunch, which means let's share lunch, where we used digital fundraising, and then parents, communities, people in the diaspora, they contributed. And that covers the 10% that the government is not covering, which is 90% of everything. While this shared responsibility is still growing, it is helping build a culture where feeding children becomes a national commitment. So everyone feels that it's their responsibility, that they can also contribute. One other thing where we're challenged, and I know because I also heard from the research, centralizing kitchen models. We know that they're effective. And for that, we partnered with a local NGO. It's called Solid Africa. It's known for feeding patients at hospitals. And we partnered with them, and they started feeding children in schools that are closer to where the kitchen is. They started with 1,500 children. Now they're feeding 12,000 using their centralized kitchen. And this helps with improved food quality, safety measures, but also they also train school staff in how to handle food better. These models allow for consistent nutrition, better hygiene standards, reduced costs because they use what everyone uses and they use the economies of scale, and then they also help with the creation of local employment opportunities, demonstrating how scaling up efficient systems can strengthen school feeding nationwide. And at the same time, and I promise I'm going to conclude, we're still challenged with clean cooking. And today, about 94% of the schools in Rwanda, they cook using firewood. This poses health risks, deforestation, and it increases costs as well. And so right now we're looking at banners. We started what we call a clean cooking task force to bring and convene all the partners to help us tackle this challenge, but also come up with innovative solutions that place efficiency and clean energy at the center. This helps protect the staff, the people that help cook, protect the children, but also the environment. And when you put all these elements together, so investment, national investment, agriculture, prioritizing local farmers, community engagement, making sure that everyone feels that this is their responsibility, that every child that goes to school at least gets a meal, and then strong partnerships, ensuring that we rally everyone to feel that this is a shared responsibility, and then clean energy solutions, then school feeding becomes more than just a meal. It becomes a powerful engine for learning, economic growth for the communities, environmental protection that is strengthened, and then it gives every child nourishment and dignity that they need to thrive in school. And in conclusion, because I don't know if I'm coming back, I would like to thank very much the government of Brazil for their leadership in school feeding. A few months ago, we sent a team from Rwanda to come and learn at how Brazil does it, because they're doing it and they're doing it differently. And we're all taking notes. So the innovation inspires us, and we're taking careful notes. But I'd like to also thank the World Food Program, because long before we started, long before school feeding became universal, World Food Program partnered with us to even start. And even today, they're still supporting us. So on behalf of Rwanda, I'd also like to thank you. And then to the organizers for this, for their dedication. I hope that in the next future, Rwanda will have the opportunity to host you and to show you where we're doing and to continue on this conversation of improving school feeding for all our children. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Excellency. Really inspired. Thank you for sharing with us your insights on the how, and also some of the work that's still ahead. And I really love this notion of sharing, both the sharing that's come from the experience in Brazil, but the sharing that comes through this panel and all members on the coalition, so that we can all be learning from each other. I also understand that you may have to leave us a little bit early. Please stay with us as long as you can, and when you have to go, we understand. Let me move southernly to Lesotho, and here I would like to turn to the Minister of Education and Training, His Excellency Professor Ntoi Rapapa. Excellency, Lesotho has committed to sourcing 80% of school meal food from local smallholder farmers. Now, that's what we like to see. Yeah, round of applause. A major commitment. But it goes beyond that. It's a commitment that also includes those farmers using eco-friendly methods while strengthening multi-sectoral collaboration. Now, how is your country working to enforce these policies, to implement these policies, and to build the institutional capacity to advance this approach? Excellency, the floor is yours. And there is the microphone. Over to you.
Oh, thank you very much, the program director. Thank you for the question and for the opportunity to share Lesotho's experience. But first, allow me to pay my respects to the leadership of Brazil, WFP, development partners, presenters, participants, and colleagues, all that are here. In Lesotho, we recognize that school feeding is not only a social protection, but it's also a driver of sustainable agriculture, nutrition, and rural development. And for the education sector, it directly improves enrollment, attendance, reduces dropout rates, promotes equity, and enhances concentration and learning. Our recently revised school feeding policy, whose development and revision was supported by World Food Program, both financially and technically, prioritizes a homegrown school and feeding model. And in this revised policy, the goal is to source at least, like you have mentioned, 80% of school meals from local smallholder farms using sustainable and eco-friendly methods. In order to implement this, I'll list a number of initiatives that the government has done. We have established school feeding committees. That means every school has a committee, and the work of the committee is to oversee and ensure that the service providers contracted to supply meals, source food locally, particularly from local smallholder farmers around the schools. We have also established advisory board, which is multi-ministerial. It's made of senior officials from Ministry of Agriculture, Ministry of Finance, Ministry of Social Development, Trade, local government, and the Office of the Prime Minister. We have also established food basket and menus that are flexible to integrate food commodities that are produced around the schools. We also train on a continual basis farmers and also assist smallholder farmers to construct greenhouses to ensure regular supply of vegetables. We also have regular or a monthly dialogue with farmers' associations to hear their concerns and address issues such as timely access of the agricultural inputs. These initiatives make sure that we procure from local farmers around the schools. In addition to that, I must mention that the route that we have traveled to have a universal coverage in basic education for school meals supply in schools was done in collaboration with WFP. Initially, WFP was also involved in the provision of meals, but eventually there was a transition and time to transit to the level where now we are 100% using our domestic government budget to support the school meals. However, WFP is still playing a major role for the preschool, what we call ECCD centers, where in collaboration with other development partners, they are still providing the school meals for the preschools. And we have started initiatives in that regard also to move into the transition where the government will take full responsibility of school meals for the ECCD centers. Finally, but most importantly, is that our king, who is the head of state, is also the African Union nutrition champion. And he personally plays a powerful advocacy role in Africa and both locally in our country. He normally meets the principal chiefs and traditional leaders and encourages them to provide and promote these smallholder farmers. The king has also directed that the value chain of agricultural products be strengthened, a measure that is expected to yield far-reaching benefits such as enhancement of food security, stimulation of small agro-processing plants. With all this progress that we have made, we still face some challenges, mostly coming from climate change impacts. Recently in our country, we are experiencing erratic rainfall, heat waves, storms, cold spells, as well as a land tenure arrangements where land passes through inheritance, sometimes to beneficiaries with little interest in farming. These realities demand continued innovation, resilient building, and stronger cross-sectoral collaboration, which we are undertaking. Despite all these challenges and successes that I've highlighted, Lesotho remains committed because we view school feeding, starting from the ECCD centers, as a national investment in our children's development, our food systems, and our rural economies. Recently, last year, we increased the price for the school meal by 57% to make sure that when we procure from local smallholder farmers, it's sustainable for them. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Your Excellency, you can pass the microphone to the left. And just to highlight, I was in Lesotho last year at the invitation of His Majesty and was very impressed with the vibrancy of the agricultural sector and the commitment towards smallholder farmers and procuring from them for the school meals program. Well done, Lesotho. Now, let us hear from Uganda. And we have Dr. John Chrysostom, the Minister of State for Higher Education from Uganda. Now, Uganda is in the process of launching its first national school feeding policy. We're very excited about this. I hope you're excited too. Can I hear some excitement? A little bit of excitement? Please, Your Excellency, can you share with us how is government shaping this policy to strengthen local food systems, especially through support for smallholder farmers, nutritious crops, and sustainable procurement models, knowing, of course, that the smallholder sector in Uganda is a very vibrant one. We buy a lot of food in Uganda also for work that the World Food Program does around the region. Your Excellency, let us hear from you.
Thank you very much, Madam Moderator. Even Ugandans are excited about this policy coming. Muyingo John Chrysostom is my name. I'm the Minister of State in charge of higher education in Uganda. I carried very warm and prayerful greetings from the government and the people of Uganda to you all. Maybe I should also use this opportunity to thank the government of Brazil and the organizers of this function, first of all, for the invitation. Secondly, I want to thank them for the care, the way they have looked after us so well. And I enjoyed whatever took place yesterday, especially the meal, the students' meal in the schools we visited. Thank you very much, Brazil. Thank you very much, everybody. Madam Moderator, before we appreciate what's happening in Uganda, I think I have to remind you about only two facts about Uganda. You know, one time I went to the US and made a very wonderful presentation. But at the end, when people were asked to respond, somebody asked me whether I'd traveled by bus to the US. But these are facts. I want to share these two facts with you. First of all, Uganda, which is a country in East Africa, small country in East Africa, is blessed with big abundant fertile soils, where if you decide to put whatever you would plant would grow into what you want it to be. We are a food secure nation, even exporting a lot of what I would call a surplus to the neighboring countries. Kenya, Tanzania, Burundi, Congo will testify to this, that Uganda is a food basket for the region. But yet, in a very painful paradox, over 60% of our learners, 60% of our learners do not have a meal when they go to school. They study on an empty stomach. Yet God has blessed us with a country that has a lot of land, useful land. But anyway, that is the situation. And I think we should appreciate why we have started with the policy. Very seriously, very soon, this policy will be launched and we shall swing into action. Of course, this underlines the urgency of transforming school feeding from a charitable act into a strategic investment in human capital and local economies. Uganda, of course, will soon launch its national school feeding policy, very soon because we are almost at the end. This policy is deliberately designed to shatter that paradox. We are not simply creating a framework to deliver food. we are designing a system that connects the classroom directly to the farm, transforming schools into steady, ready, and stable markets for our agricultural communities. This vision is powerfully reinforced by our government's flagship parish development model, which channels financial resources to the lowest administrative level. Every financial year government puts their money. And of course, 30% of these funds are earmarked for agriculture. Our strategy in this direction is to directly link this expanded production with the predictable demand generated by schools. Of course, in that way, schools' meals become a powerful engine for rural livelihood, while simultaneously nourishing our children. Our National Development Plan 4 has set out an ambitious target, given us a target, whereby by 2030, at least 50% of our learners in Uganda will receive a meal a day. We believe we are firmly on course to achieving this milestone through coordinated government action, engaging community, and strengthening partnership. So, how do we shape this policy to strengthen local food systems? There was a question. Of course, we have only three pillars. Only three pillars. One is empowering smallholder farmers. Of course, through structured market linkages, our policy mandates prioritizes procurement from organized farmer cooperatives, and this provides a predictable offtake agreements, giving them confidence to invest, those people to invest and increase production and move from subsistence to commerce. The school meal plate becomes a source of stable income, that's what we expect, for millions and millions of families. The second pillar is promoting nutrition-sensitive agriculture to ensure we are nourishing minds, not just filling the body. And the third pillar, time is running out, is implementing decentralized, sustainable procurement models. Our homegrown approach means schools procure food from within their own districts, and this reduces costs and carbon footprint, ensures freshness, and empowers communities through school management committees. It keeps value within local communities, local economies, and build resilience from the ground up. Your Excellencies and dear Coordinator, our approach is going to be country-led and government stewards. But it will also be community-owned and partnership, because what we are having right now, developed into a policy, has been piloted in one of our regions called Karamoja, and the results have showing very good. They are coming out very well. More people are now able to go to school. People are producing with a lot of seriousness. So, colleagues, that's what's happening in Uganda, and I'm praying that you support us so that when we go into action, we really mean it. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Uganda, Your Excellency, and I really like the way you highlight how schools are stable marketplaces for farmers to grow, to supply, and the economic impact that has, in addition to the clear benefit to the schools and to the learners. Very excited to hear about what comes ahead in Uganda. If you can pass your microphone to the left. Thank you. And now we move westwards to Guinea-Bissau. And we have His Excellency Queeba Djaite, the Minister for Education, Higher Education, and Scientific Research from Guinea-Bissau. Welcome, Your Excellency. I understand that Guinea-Bissau is introducing local food and school meals as well. What kinds of innovations are helping you to overcome barriers and expand these programs, especially in rural and island communities that you face? Please, Your Excellency, you have the floor.
Bom dia a todos. Em primeiro lugar, gostaria de agradecer a organização deste evento pela calorosa recepção e saudar igualmente em nome do povo da Guiné-Bissau, o povo do Brasil, concretamente o estado de Ceará, cidade de Fortaleza, que nos acolheu para este grande evento. A coalizão é uma organização dos países que entenderam que devem afirmar a sua posição para garantir, com certeza, uma segurança alimentar às nossas crianças.
To our children. However, Guinea-Bissau could not be left out. We are in these challenges, and as soon as I took my administration, I met with the representative of the World Program in Guinea-Bissau, where I showed my concern with respect to the works that were being done. And this initiative showed me concretely how we can manage to reinforce local production to bring more food internally rather than import food, because we know that the treatment of the food starts at the production, harvest, and in its conservation as well. And Guinea-Bissau, for those of you who are not familiar with, is a country situated in the west coast of Africa. We have 36,000 square kilometers and a small territory, but we have more than 88 islands. We have very good water resources, groundwater, and very fertile soil as well for our crops. However, in our talk, I told to the representative that my concern, we had to create conditions for local production, because the main mistake is that sometimes our partners do not ask us what we want. What should we do? Many times we're going to fund this and that, they say, and surely there's not going to meet our needs that we have in our country. That's why I told them, despite I am the Minister of Education, as the Minister of Education speaking to the Minister of Agriculture, we have to support local farmers, local agriculture, reinforce our production through a mechanized agriculture. This will allow us, with the fertile soil that we have a better production, more production, and with this bigger production, we will be able to supply not only for our market, but also the guarantee that we can bring this food to the schools, to the hospitals, and in other states' facilities. He agreed with me upon this. In the next phase of our relationship, of our partnership, we're going together to try to find the concrete projects as a way to be able to fund co-ops through mechanical machineries in these regions to increase the local productions. And with respect to this case, the bank is still our main partner. that helps us with the funds to finance school meals. We call the school canteens. Well, I have here the director of this program, only for this, and we have more than 1,200 schools that benefit from this support, and out of those, 850 are supported by the WFP program, and we thank them, but we do not want to be asking for fish always. We want to learn how to fish. We want to have your help to find the material so we can do our own fishery, to create good conditions to guarantee sustainable and true food security, so we can depend and rely on ourselves, as we heard from other countries here that are ahead of us and others that are completely independent of this support. This is what we want. We're working strongly on this. Surely with the projects and resources that we have, some commitments that we are going to take here, when we reach the right time, we will be able to be similar conditions as the other countries that are ahead of us now. Looking at the future, as it is, yeah, the World Bank program and the West Africa Bank, we have a possibility of finding some financing there that will be able to make us able to buy tons of rice so we can supply our school system. We are aware that school is important. School is really important. One of the main ministry of the country is the Ministry of Education. No countries in the world can thrive for their development, for security, without a very good quality in education. However, we need to invest in education, invest in our children, so that they can be in healthy conditions to be able to thrive in their future, the future that the world puts on us right now. And to guarantee the sustainability of the school programs, definitely we're going to carry on strengthening contacts with our partners. So we have a great partnership, which is also very important. And unfortunately, I was cut off. And surely we have harder work, but men manage to grow when they have this type of challenges, with this type of hardships, because nothing is easy. If we want everything to be easy, we will surely make nowhere.
Thank you so much, Excellency.
Acabou o tempo.
Am I out of time?
We are out of time,
Yeah.
but if you have any short...
Unfortunately, but if you have just a short conclusion.
Não percebi? Ok. Tá bem, muito obrigado. Eu acho que já
Okay, thank you very much. I believe I have said it all.
garanto que Guiné-Bissau, com certeza,
And I can guarantee that Guinea-Bissau,
vamos dar
in the near future, we're going to be giving our best, as we've been doing, so that food security is a reality in our schools. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Excellency. And as you highlighted, it's so important that governments are in the driver's seat, and the shift from school meals not as a aid program supported from the outside, but as a national policy and a national program has been very key to the success. And it was very interesting hearing about Guinea-Bissau's trajectory and some of the unique features or particular features in terms of the island communities. Thank you so much, and we look forward to your continued
Obrigado.
engagement.
Obrigado.
Good. So we are moving now to Asia. Do you have a micro? Oh, you have one. Okay, good. So thank you so much. We have now Dr. Chan Sophea, the Undersecretary of State from the Ministry of Education in Cambodia. Very happy to have you here. Now, Cambodia has scaled up its homegrown school feeding program in a big way. Congratulations for that. And you've increased the domestic budget from 4.3 million just a few years ago to $7.4 million today. So can you tell us a bit about what strategies have enabled this expansion, and how is Cambodia aligning school meals with the broader food systems transformation that is underway? The floor is yours.
Yes, thank you, Madam Valerie. Moderator is section 4. And good morning, all of you. And take this opportunity to thank our host, Brazil, that organized our school meal coalition second global summit. Thank you. I'm pleased to provide an update on Cambodia program in school meal, which divide into key part that to say about the strategy and mechanism in Cambodia of implement the world food of the school meal program. The first, Cambodia has made school meal a national priority. We institutionalize the homegrown, the name is homegrown school feeding program, as the national program, reflection in 3 points. I mean, pedagogical strategy phase 1, and school feeding policy and policy action plan. They are aligned with both the National School Protection Framework that we have 2 parts, 2016-2025 and 2025-2035. And the third national strategy on food security and nutrition. This demonstrates strong political commitment from the royal government of Cambodia. And second, we have a clear transition strategy with government and World Food Program in 2022. We agreed to gradually hand over all World Food Program support school to full national ownership by 2028. This makes a shift from partnership to ownership. As a result, school meal distribute has scaled up from 7 million meal in 2020 to 28 million in 2025, with an ambitious target of 56 million meal by 2028. Now, regarding alignment with the broader food system transition, I would like to highlight 3 levels of the engagement, and one at the national level. Cambodia has achievement key milestone. We work closely with ministry and partner to strengthen coordination and generate evidence. National study include 2024 process evaluation, identify progress and challenges. 2025 return on investment study by Harvard University showing that every dollar invest in homegrown school feeding yet $4 return in the education. And on food system transformation, homegrown school feeding contribute by increased stable market for local farmer, encouraging sustainable agriculture, improving children nutrition and dietary habit, fostering demand for healthy local food, strengthening local economic and creating jobs, especially for the women in food preparation and supply chain. At the regional level, Cambodia hosts the first Southeast Asia School Meal Coalition Summit in Siem Reap in 2024, co-host with the Philippines and Korea. Key outcome from the summit include recognition of school meal as a game-changing intervention, commitment to improving nutrition and address global needs, identification of evidence and policy priority, acknowledgement of financial commitment and the need for more investment, implementation of the nutrition standard, agreement to sustain momentum with the Philippines hosting the next summit in 2026. And finalized at the global level, Cambodia is a proud member of the Global School Meal Coalition. We commit to share best practices tailored to national context, investing in research, financing, and advocacy, collaborating across sector and level to achievement share global. This initiative reflects Cambodia's strong commitment to improve school feeding and alignment with its broader food system transition. We believe our experience can contribute meaningfully to regional and global efforts. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Cambodia. And really, in addition to the impressive progress that you've been making in Cambodia for the leadership at the regional level and the partnership at the global level, they're very encouraging. I would now like to move to your left, if you can pass your microphone. And I will move to Kenya. And here, let me welcome Mr. Stephen Barongo, the Senior Director from the Ministry of Education in Kenya. Now, Kenya's really been leading the way, Mr. Barongo, in leveraging school meal programs to drive food systems transformation as part of your national commitments. And we've all been very impressed by the trajectory. In the past few years, the number of children receiving meals has increased from 1.8 million to 2.6 million. And where WFP was for many years supporting directly delivering meals in Kenya, the country has over the past decade taken full over the management and leadership and ownership of the school meals program, and that's very impressive. Could you please share with us what are some of the key elements that you are introducing to make the program more sustainable and planet-friendly, a space that Kenya is also now leading on? And what lessons have you learned so far? Over to you.
Thank you so much, Moderator, for this great opportunity. Your Excellencies, the Ministers of Education, partners, heads of delegations and members of those delegations, ladies and gentlemen, I am privileged today to represent His Excellency, Honorable Julius Migos Ogamba, the Minister for Education in Kenya, in this panel this morning. And I want to, on behalf of the Kenyan delegation, to join the other colleagues in appreciating the government of Brazil and the Fortaleza Fraternity for the warm reception and your generosity. I am delighted to be here with you today and to see the continued momentum on the Global School Meals Coalition. Last year in Kenya, we proudly hosted the second ministerial meeting of the School Meals Coalition. We see great value in this initiative, which unites governments, development partners, donors, the scientific community, and the stakeholders around one common goal: bringing children back to school, expanding access to nutritious meals, and improving the overall quality of school feeding programs. For us in Kenya, the school meals program is firmly enshrined of the heart of the Kenyan people, because it is one of our longest standing safety nets supporting children and their families. With the steady support from the World Food Program since the 1980s, the program has grown into a Kenya self-managed and financed. As you may know, every year we have a line budget, ring-fenced, and over the years, this line budget is growing so that more children are brought on board. School feeding in Kenya today also builds on the combined strength of the national and local government provided meals. As you know, in Kenya, we have 48 governments. The 48th one is the national government. And we have the devolved governments that we call county governments. The national government leads the way in feeding her children. And at county level, that is given a responsibility of dealing with the young children in early ages. They have started also their strategies of feeding those young children. And in major cities like in Nairobi, we have the leader of that county government, the governor, leading the way in feeding all the children in so-called the centralized kitchen, where food is cooked centrally, and then leveraging the developed infrastructure, road infrastructure, it is transported in whichever means to schools around there. In so doing, we make sure that the school is cooked in a clean way, the food is meets the standards, the nutritional standards, and that there is no much cooking everywhere by use of firewood that emits a lot of carbon in the city. So this reduces the carbon emission, and the food is served hot and nutritious to all children in time. In Kenya as well, we have the community-led initiatives where parents come together in areas that are not targeted by the two governments and contribute in kind in the school-based school feeding program, where parents personally contribute and make sure that their children eat in school and the food makes them equal. Because when you eat one food cooked the same way, then children see themselves as equal to one another. And many other models that are being employed in Kenya. Ladies and gentlemen, in Kenya, we have also proudly championed the call to action for climate-friendly school meals, which was pronounced during the 2023 African Climate Summit, which set the strategic direction that school meals are not only about feeding children, but also about shaping resilient local food systems and helping local communities diversify their livelihoods in the face of climate change. The pillars of reducing the environmental footprint of school feeding, sourcing locally, promoting healthy and locally sourced diets, and shifting from 90% use of firewood to cleaner sources of energy for cooking in schools all guide our strategies and models today as we scale up. In line with our commitments to expand coverage to 10 million children from the current 2.6 by 2030, and with the steady support from the World Food Programme and other partners in the National School Meals Coalition, we have launched a national scale-up plan that drives food systems transformation through the following pathways. One, a strong revised national school meals policy, which anchors the shift away from imports to locally grown foods within a clear policy and legal framework. Two, the transition towards an effective aggregator model, which helps Kenya to source food directly from smallholder farmers, promoting economic inclusion, local market creation, efficiency, and value for money. Demand for more climate-friendly crops, driven by the adoption of the revised school menus, which emphasize diverse, nutritious, locally grown, and drought-tolerant foods. The progress of our National School Meals Coalition, which is now our primary coordination platform to bring together government, civil society, private sector, the local development partners to jointly deliver on the scale up. In just 1 year, the National Coalition has grown into a space where stakeholders align on priorities, pool efforts and resources, and accelerate progress on Kenya's ambitious scale up. Transition towards green growth agenda by contributing towards the reduction of reliance on the wood biomass for cooking in schools and reducing carbon emissions from schools. Transitioning to clean cooking in the school meals program will reduce deforestation, and carbon emissions, while also improving the health of our cooks, the people who cook in those kitchens, where when you use firewood, then they really inhale a lot of carbon to the detriment of their health. So once we move totally into clean cooking, I think we are seeing their lives improve. This will enhance the resilience of the vulnerable learners to the impact of climate change by promoting access to nutritious school meals, which will promote access to basic education. The carbon financing harnessed from this initiative will go a long way into enhancing the sustainability of the program. We also recognize that scaling up cannot happen if we walk this journey alone. We are calling out today for more partners to join us on this journey and to help us tap into more innovative and more sustainable financing options.
Mr. Barongo, if we can bring this to a close, thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Just about, according to our latest evidence, the cost of a school meal in Kenya, a basic meal for children costs about 20 Kenya shillings, which is equivalent to 15 cents dollar to feed one child per day. So to feed 10 million children every school day, we will need around 280 million US dollars per year. We will need new mechanisms and partners who are ready to co-invest with us so that we can purchase more meals and therewith push the needle forward on the number of children accessing meals. While the government of Kenya is committed to continue prioritizing and investing domestic resources into school meals program, we need to broaden the partnership so that we can achieve this transformation together. Together, let us join hands in the co-creating and co-investing in Kenya's school meals scale up and as a driver for local food systems transformation. It is a triple win.
Director.
Thank you so much. Lastly,
Director, thank you so much. We are really, there's lots of ministers with bilaterals that are supposed to take place. I'm so sorry that I have to
only one sentence and then I hand it over. So lastly, I will also express my heartfelt thanks to our host, the Brazilian government. Last year, Brazil generously hosted the delegation from Kenya to inform our scale-up and food system approach. As we approach the first anniversary of our National School Meals Coalition chapter on the 8th of October, we reaffirm our strong commitment to this shared agenda. Kenya is ready to demonstrate what is possible when ambition is matched with investment and collective effort. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Mr. Barongo. That was a long last sentence. I see how you did that. I'm going to take notes. But let us now move to Ethiopia. And here we started late and have gone long. And so, but this is certainly last but not least on this panel. We have a little wrap up with some partners that we would also need to include. So let me turn to Ambassador Leulseged from Ethiopia, the ambassador here in Brazil. Ethiopia has been rapidly expanding school meals and showing strong commitment, and we saw that in some of the statistics yesterday. Your national budget has increased from 45 million just 5 years ago to $110 million last year. And you recently hosted the Food Systems Summit Stocktake in Addis. I was there, and really that underscores the strong leadership that Ethiopia is bringing also on the global scale. As you scale up school meals and champion food systems transformation, how are you ensuring that these efforts reinforce each other? Over to you, Excellency.
Thank you very much. I'm delighted to be here with you. Let me also thank the Brazilian government for hosting us, and of course, I should express my heartfelt appreciation for World Food Program for being, the secretariat of this important coalition. I know your commitment for the noble cause, and World Food Program is a very important development partner for Ethiopia. Thank you for your question. Really, it recognizes Ethiopia's continued commitment on food security as well as on school meal. We do believe when we talk about school meal, we need to follow an integrated approach, and that's what we have been trying to do. And we have been making progress, and we are very proud about that. But we do also know that a lot remains to be done, frankly speaking. And currently, we are reaching to 8 million children every day, twice a day. 8 million. But we believe we need to scale up this, as you rightly mentioned. And our pledge to this summit is by 2030, we are aiming to achieve universal coverage in pre-primary, primary, and middle school education. And that means reaching to 21 million learners. And this is, in fact, our pledge again to this assembly, 21 million learners. And this, as you know very well, would require smart investment. And you rightly mentioned about our commitment to increase funding for school meals. And I should also update a little bit here. We have already allocated $127 million this year for school meal. And I think government is leading, and 90% of the budget of this comes from the national budget. And I should also express that this is, I believe, a national testament to our commitment to school feeding. It's not only a federal effort. We also follow a decentralized approach. Let me give you just an example. The Addis Ababa City Administration, for example, now provides 2 meals per day for over 600,000 students. And that tells you how we are working to scale up this important program. The city alone is now allocating $100 million for this program. Thank you. This is because we do believe that a school meal is a strategic investment, and we are integrating it with our food system transformation. And we are also using homegrown approach, integrating it with local actors, particularly smallholder farmers. Again, concrete example. Just last academic year, $50 million was transferred directly into the hands of our smallholder farmers. This is, I think, a clear example how we should focus on integrating smallholder farmers when we discuss about school meals. Another example is we have to use also locally produced crops. For us, this is exactly what we are doing. And for example, again, in Addis Ababa, we are using 12% of the grain market from the city. And again, we are emphasizing the importance of integration. Let me also highlight that currently, as you rightly mentioned, we have successfully hosted the UN Food System Summit, and of course, the Africa Climate Summit by the beginning of this month. These important forums underscore the essential link between a stable climate and a food-secure future, an nexus where Ethiopia continues to lead when we achieve, when we try to achieve the 2030 agenda. In this spirit, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, allow me to make a special announcement. The Ethiopian government is deeply delighted and honored to express its firm commitment and readiness to host the third Global School Meals Coalition Summit in Addis Ababa. This is our offer to this august body. This will be the first summit in Africa. Yesterday, we talked about the importance of scaling up programs in Africa, and I think a lot has been done in our continent, but more remains to be done. If we are going to host the next summit in Addis Ababa, it will be an additional call for action, inspiring all African countries to scale up school meal programs. So I look forward to welcoming you to Addis Ababa, and I can assure you this is a noble cause that, as you rightly mentioned, governments have continued to lead, but governments alone could not make it happen. We need all partners, and multi-stakeholder partnership is vital. Again, looking forward to meeting you in Addis Ababa. I thank you very much for this opportunity. Thank you very much again.
Thank you so much, Excellency, and thank you for the kind offer, which we are excited to hear about and which we will take on board as the coalition to see what would be the best venue. But I do know that Ethiopia has wonderful facilities, so we're excited to have your offer on the table, and really also very excited about the tremendous progress in Ethiopia. I really want to take this opportunity to thank all of our ministers and country representatives for sharing your insight and your examples. It's very clear, and you have made that crystal clear, that it's country leadership that is driving this train that George keeps telling us about. And we are so pleased and proud to be supporting you as a coalition and as partners in your effort. A round of applause, please, for all of our excellent country leaders. And if I can ask you all to just come quickly with some speed over to the middle for us to just take a quick photo before you go and take your seats and we move to our last panel. Thank you. I get to be in the middle. One, because I'm the moderator, and two, because I lost my only other sister here, but I'm happy to be here with my brothers, Excellencies. Maybe three on one side, three on the other, so we can be balanced. And another round of applause as you take your seats. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you so much. Okay, so let me just keep this movement going. We are going to now call up our next set of speakers who we're very excited to have on board. And I'd like to invite to join me for a fireside chat, Dr. Roy Steiner, Senior Vice President for Food Initiative at the Rockefeller Foundation. Thank you so much, Roy. Please come and join me up here. And Dr. Afton Halloran, Senior Scientific Manager in Global and Environmental Health at Novo Nordisk Foundation. Thank you so much. You can sit on the side, and I'll come in the middle. Yeah. There we go. Hi, Roy.
Hello.
Nice to
Good
see you.
to see you.
Yeah.
Hi, everyone.
Hi, Dr. Afton. Nice to see you. Okay, so, I mean, we've heard mention of both Rockefeller Foundation and Novo Nordisk during this meeting, and that's because both of these organizations have really been instrumental in supporting government-led efforts to scale sustainable school meal programs. So I'd like to ask each of you, what sparked your foundation's interest in school meals as a lever for change? Was there a particular moment, a particular challenge challenge or opportunity that made you see the potential that comes with school meals? And Roy, I'll start with you.
Thanks, Valerie. Well, as many of you know, Rockefeller Foundation has been investing in food and agriculture for almost 114 years. And you know, about 7 years ago, we did a strategy refresh. And what became clear is that we had spent a lot of time on productivity improvement, but almost nothing on quality. And then, as everybody's mentioned, you know, diet-related disease now is the #1 risk for early mortality. We really created a food system that was not fit for purpose, was actually destroying value. And then the question came is, how do you shift that? How do we get better diets? And so as we started looking around, the school meals came up, and I was like, school meals, it's, well, you know, what really is that? And then you start looking at school meals, and then you realize, wow, this is an extraordinarily powerful lever for change. It's like it is a Swiss Army knife for development, or an iPhone for development. It does so many different things in so many amazing ways. And that's what really kind of sparked us and said, okay, this is something we need to understand, because it is a high leverage investment compared to all the other investments we could be doing.
Thank you so much. So Afton, did you have a similar aha moment, or was it more of a slow build?
Yeah, this is really why it's so easy to collaborate with the Rockefeller Foundation, because we're very much aligned, but our history is a little different. So we have a 100-year history as a foundation funding medical research primarily in Denmark. But it was actually the pivotal moment of 2022 when we changed our strategy, where we started to look into the homegrown school feeding space. And this was very interesting because our strategy moved from just looking at health to actually looking at sustainability. And within the sustainability pillar, it was healthy and sustainable diets. It was sustainable agriculture. Within health, it was the prevention and management of cardiometabolic disease, a fancy term for type 2 diabetes, for heart disease, for overweight and obesity. And also health equity. So when we tried to understand what is a single intervention that could address all of these things single-handedly, where research could be involved, where innovation could fit in as well, we turned to the Homegrown School Feeding Program, and that ignited a conversation with World Food Program, and the rest is history, really. And this has allowed us to come into this community as a newcomer without that history of funding within the space.
Great. So maybe just staying with you a little bit still, Afton, as you've deepened the collaboration with governments, how has your approach evolved? And I mean, what impact have you seen advancing food systems transformation, especially through more sustainable local models?
Yeah, so it's been an evolution. So again, 2022 was our starting point, and we started small. And so how it all started was really looking within the humanitarian settings. In particular, we're working in East Africa, and for us, it started with looking at how do you connect smallholder farmers, and very much in line with also government priorities. How do you create the markets? How do you improve the quality of the meal? Because for us, it's not just about filling stomachs, because we have that long view on health. We have that view on children in their adult lives, that we don't want them to move from undernourishment to overnourishment. We want to set them on that healthy trajectory. And then also, it was a no-brainer for us to look into clean cooking, because that was also, of course, something that was already being done on the ground. Then we moved from just looking at humanitarian settings to now looking at the national context. So this is kind of the new phase in our relationship to this topic. How do we basically support governments to reach scale? The great thing about philanthropies is that we want impact, we want scale, and this is a fantastic platform to do that. And so in the context where we are working, Eastern Africa, also in India, which is a slightly different context, of course, we can see that these programs, when we work at a national level and not just in the humanitarian context, that we can achieve scale, but it takes a lot. It takes that all hands on deck approach. It's not just government. Of course, the priorities are being set, but we're there to support, to fill in the gaps when it comes to research, when it comes to innovation, and also when it comes to the implementation. So how do you really refine things to make sure that you have the best design possible? That's where we are now.
And Roy, I mean, you lead the food initiative. Was this issue of sustainability and local sourcing, was that baked in from the beginning, or did it evolve over time?
It was baked in from the beginning because we are a food and agriculture initiative. But you know, this idea of using school meals to drive food system transformation is a very powerful one, and that comes in many different ways. One is you know, the fact that you can introduce new types of crops. That was mentioned. You went from 3 crops to 18 crops. Where that was in was it Cambodia or one of the? Sorry, I didn't have my notes. But the fact that you can do that is a very powerful driver. The other is you know, it's not. We spend a lot of time, number of kids fed, but it's the quality of the meal that's actually really important. And 7 years ago, there was no way to measure that quality. We now have menu quality measures. I think all countries need to be looking at that. And we can actually improve the quality by creating the increased diversity in our diet and shifting the kinds of menus that we have. As the Minister from Rwanda, Minister of State from Rwanda has mentioned, this fortified whole grain approach where you shift from refined grain to whole grain. It is by far the simplest way to improve your quality of a meal. The most meals are they underserve fiber almost everywhere in the world. And by the way, the best country in the world that has made that shift is actually Denmark. Afton's country went from 10% refined grain to 80 to 90% consumption of whole grains. And that's such a, you can do it at actually cheaper cost than providing refined grain. So if you're thinking about menu engineering, fortified whole grain is really the way to go, and it is can be budget neutral. So it's looking at these substitutions and shifting the food system. There's so many opportunities with school meals.
So sticking with you, Roy, for a last question. This emphasis on quality also led to an emphasis on sustainability. So how, as you look ahead, how is your foundation working with governments to really scale up this implementation of planet-friendly school meals?
Well, we really love school meals because at the end of the day, this has to be driven, paid for, and managed by governments. And as Christina said yesterday, this is about building state capability and also community empowerment. And one of the things that, you know, there are these amazing programs using school meals to develop community connection and empowerment. And we are really interested in school-based demonstration farms connected to this. Turns out that when you have school-based demonstration farms or gardens, your extension system can be 2 to 3 times more effective, right? So this is a win-win. You're creating education, you're providing maybe a little bit of food, but in fact, you're shifting the knowledge of farming in that area in many cases. And we have really good randomized controlled trials showing that if you want to improve the extension system of a country, school-based demonstration farms or gardens are a powerful lever. So there's all of this synergy going on to make the school meals more sustainable. And finally, I think at the end of the day, we really want to build the capacity of governments to do this, and we are planning and helping to do that through a number of mechanisms. One mechanism, I think, you know, I was talking to a number of people. We all know that there's, for example, corruption and leakage going on in various systems, but there are best practices out there. We need to be sharing. We all know this is an issue, and so many people want to address it, but we don't know often the best way to do it, and this is where this collaboration and best practice sharing can be extremely helpful.
Well, thank you so much, Roy, and for bringing your leadership to this issue. And maybe, Afton, just looking to you from Novo Nordisk, how are you working to help governments to scale up this notion of planet-friendly school meals?
Well, I think that's where we have this kind of diversified offering. So we have, as I mentioned before, we can support in terms of implementation. So that's not just the delivery of the programs themselves, that's the fine-tuning, that's, you know, how do you get the procurement systems to work at their best? How do you create the markets for smallholder farmers? How do you tweak the quality of the meals so that you get, you know, maximum nutritional gains and long-term health gains? So that is one area where we will continue to support, and we're in this for the long haul, and I think that's also where we have focused in terms of geographies, but we will be there as a long-term partner, which I think is exciting. The second thing is around our focus on research. Research is a part of our DNA. That is really the beginnings of the foundation. And so we will continue to support research, applied research that basically is addressing the evidence gaps that are needed to inform policy evolution. And that, I think, is an important part where we are in dialogue with our partners to understand what do governments need to make the best choices, to add that extra level of sophistication to their programs. The third one is on technology. So we're also not afraid of technology. I'll give you an example. We recently funded a project that is looking at AI, artificial intelligence technology, as a means of basically creating in-time data collection on the quality of school meals. And so by linking entrepreneurs, innovators to the homegrown school feeding value chain, that is another area of support that we're able to do. So that attention to small and medium scale enterprises and just innovation, and many of the countries represented here have very robust innovation ecosystems. So we're also ready to provide support in that area as well.
Well, thank you so much. Look, I think it's very clear how important partnerships and strategic partnerships are. We talk about the School Meals Coalition being built also of more than 150 partners. And here with Rockefeller Foundation and Novo Nordisk Foundation, we have great examples of strategic partnerships that are helping governments to take the best ideas to scale and to really come in as wind behind the sails of national-led effort. So really thank you both for your tremendous, tremendous work, and a round of applause for these two exemplary strategic partners. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay, so this brings us to the close of our session. George, don't worry, I'm wrapping it up. Let me turn that down. And I really just wanted to say as we wrap up, just a huge thank you to all the panelists and speakers that we've had for being part of what has been a very important conversation in this room, but that really resonates far beyond this room. Today's session clearly confirms country commitment is the engine driving that real change. And we've seen how governments are using school meals to feed children, strengthen food systems, improve nutrition, and support local economies. And we, everything from Kenya's clean cooking initiatives and Lesotho's local sourcing commitments and Ethiopia's leadership on the global stage, all of these are deeply rooted in national priorities. But countries can't do it alone, and we're really looking for partners to rally around these efforts, and we heard some great examples of that in this last chat. And partners help bring the right support, financing, technical expertise, long-term collaboration. This is really how it all comes together, enabling and amplifying what countries are learning and what countries are doing. So really, thank you all for this great conversation and looking forward to the rest of the day. Thank you so much.